if you're interested, I'm going to give you an overview of my process with this camera. You see, with these old large format cameras, they're basically just a box with a lens on one end that projects light onto a surface. In the 8x10 format, this 12-inch lens will project about an 11 by 14 image circle onto the back surface of the camera. Or if you put a 5x7 back on it, it will crop it. I have two backs. One that takes the 5x7 and it also separates it if you want into two smaller images. And one that's the 8x10 ground glass back. These are used for focusing. And this piece comes off. So you can see it's sliding back and forth there. So what I've done is I've made two new backs for it. One goes on here. So that allows me to mount my camera on this platform with an adapter into this hole. And my process then is to start with the ground glass. That gets me close to where I need it. And then I switch out to this to attach my digital back. The other back is the 8x10 back. And this is a large piece of ground glass. And it's got marks to indicate where an 8x10 sheet would go if you were to use the film back on it. I don't have a film back. And I also don't have the requisite thousands of dollars in order to get into the chemistry and the chemicals. So what I'll do is I use the ground glass to focus the camera roughly where I want it, and then I mount the digital camera. This has two bellows. These allow me to extend the depth of the box. This here is my digital back, and what this allows me to do is slide the camera back and forth so I can stitch images together to create a landscape, or I can move the camera up and down on this rail to create layers. So ultimately, to cover the 8x10 space, I think takes about 21 images, maybe more. And this just pops on the back of the camera. Now, one of the problems is that because you need a dark box, and I have these openings, I get lens flare from the inside of the camera as well as the outside. For that reason, I still need to use a black curtain. Well, you can kind of see this is the back view. And what I'll do in these circumstances is focus the camera with all of the same controls as the large format camera offers. But what I do additionally is I control it remotely through my phone. Using my phone as a viewfinder and zooming in with the digital focus adjustment, I can fine-tune that and capture the images that I want without touching the camera itself. So everything is stable. And here is the view of the 8x10 back on it. And that's how we get the focus close. Or if we were using 8x10 film, we would actually capture it just like that. And the field of view is obviously much larger, so the digital camera crops that and gets only that much. So this lens that's currently mounted gives you about the equivalent angle of view of 29 millimeters. So it's a wide angle. However, when I put my digital camera on it, if my math is correct, it's 7.62 times 29 millimeters. So we're actually shooting with a pretty long lens, which is why we end up with the crop down to here. So to get the full view, we have to then move the camera around on this focal plane and crop or capture several cropped images and stitch them together to get the full 8x10 view. I guess the obvious question is, why go through all this work? Why not just use regular lenses? You're already using a 35 millimeter camera, why not use 35mm lenses? And there's actually two specific reasons I use this camera, and primarily not for paid work, although if you want me to take your picture with a 120-year-old camera, I'd love to. But what it gives me is two things. One is this bellows articulates on a couple of different axes. So that means that I can actually take your focal plane, remember it projects onto a flat surface, but I can bend it and I can tilt it. Now, yes, you can do that with lenses that you mount with a tilt-shift adapter, or tilt-shift lenses exist. And so, yeah, this is a big and cumbersome version of that. But what this does that's really unique is because it has this double bellows, I can zoom in, or I can take pictures from very, very close. It's like a 6-time magnified macro lens, which again, you could buy that. You could find that, but I don't have it. So this does it for me. The other reason is it's just kind of fun to connect with this kind of old technology. And it gives you this really unique experience that's organic, even though I'm using a digital camera. And the f-stops, the depth of field on large format cameras decreases the larger the format. So if you move from APS-C to 35mm equivalent, you do get a slight change in your depth of field. But when I move up to a 8x10 camera like this, essentially my f4.9 is the equivalent of like f0.7, something along those lines. Now that doesn't impact the light gathering ability. While yes, it's a ludicrously low f-stop, it's a ludicrously large f-stop. What it translates to is not more light. You still don't gain any light. F-stops are f-stops when it has to do with transmission of light. But what the f-stop does do, as it gets ludicrously large like that, is you end up with a very shallow depth of field. What that means is that I can take a picture or a headshot of somebody with just the most ludicrously shallow depth of field if I want to. Now, am I ever going to do that? I don't know. But I can.